Welcome to the TNC Random Fandom Podcast. We are here to have fun and talk all things pop culture, collecting, and nerd culture in general. Make sure you join the conversation during our live stream with our most excellent hosts, Craig Borden and Tommy Mock. Let the shenanigans begin.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another evening of TNC Random Fandom. I am your host, Craig Borden, and with me, as always, Tommy Mock. How the heck are you, buddy?
I'm sad. I'm very sad. But we all know why I'm sad. So let's just hope for next year. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say is. But I'm still gonna say go Bills. So that's it.
And a prompt loss to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl would be great. I just can't wait to see them just hopefully steamrolled, and it makes me a very happy camper. But we'll see what happens. I'm just saying, Saquon Barkley's a beast. So
I'm boycotting
Tommy,
the Super Bowl this year. Boycotting.
There is that. You're going there. Got it.
Yep,
so on that note, Tommy, we have a wonderful guest with us. Tell us who is joining us for an episode of game shows, and just get him to come on down here.
So this evening on our game show centric episode is a man that I actually got to meet through Instagram because he was on a game show the same time that I was on the season 1 of The Floor. Mr. Tim Sternberg, who has been on not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 different game shows. And they span from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, like with Regis Philbin, you know, the legend Regis, and I think he was also on Wheel of Fortune. Plus, he was on We Are Family, which was on Fox the same time that season 1 of The Floor was on. So without further ado, let's bring out Tim. Come on, Tim. Yeah.
How's it going?
It's time to spin the wheel of destiny.
What's up?
So how are you, Tim? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Thanks for having me on. It's so good to talk to you guys about game shows. My favorite topic. Without a doubt.
So one thing that I got to say is that Tim actually has been a fan of our podcast for, I guess I would have to say probably since the beginning, and we haven't been on for a while, but Tim also likes to participate whenever we do some fan polls and stuff like that. But Tim also has a podcast called Around the Bases. It's a baseball / pop culture, right? Is that right, Tim?
That's right. Baseball, football, pop culture, sports, all that stuff. It's myself and Charlie as co-host. Yeah.
And his Instagram is Trivia Chat. So whenever I mention Trivia Chat, I'm always referring to Tim Sternberg. So you know, let's just jump right into this, Tim. So what was your, you know, let's go back to young Tim, because you like to post a lot of stuff of like your younger years and everything, and I gotta admit, it's very entertaining. I love seeing a lot of these different videos that you put out, the little some reels, and your stories are just fantastic. So how did all of this start? How did all of this like love for, like, I guess, competing on game shows or wanting to be on a game show, where did that come from?
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a city kid, and you know, I had parents that were very active in providing for the family, and there was a lot of downtime as a kid in Brooklyn, especially during the winter when it gets really cold. And I used to watch a lot of game shows growing up, from a little child all the way on, you know, kids back in my day, and this is going way back. Used to watch Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and I would also watch Sale of the Century, Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, you name it. If the game show was on in the 70s or 80s, I saw it, and I was probably a fan of it. So, you know, when I, used to watch it with my mom, I was amazed always at how quickly these folks, the contestants on the shows, won money in such a short amount of time. And I was not stupid. I was like, hey, Mom, I want to go on a game show and win prizes and money. And, and so growing up, it was always a dream of mine, a thought process of winning prizes on a game show. And when I got old enough, I still kind of thought it was a fantasy, and I didn't think it was a possibility until Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which was a pop culture juggernaut, as everyone knows,
Hmm.
came
Yep.
about in 1999. And when that show came on and they had a phone game where you can basically call up in the phone and answer multiple choice questions and try to get on a show, at that point I was like, wow, this could possibly be a reality for me. Ironically, didn't get on via the phone game, got on first time they started doing in-person auditions, but that's another story. But yeah, I just, it's something that I always wanted to kind of do, and yeah, make a reality, so to speak.
That's awesome.
Kind of
So one of the reasons why I ask about like the history of it, because we have kind of game shows used to be like part of weekly day TV, and the every once in a blue moon they would do the the celebrity version of a show, and that would be on prime time. But most of these shows like Win, Lose or Draw and Pictionary and what was it? There was one that I absolutely loved, and
Describe it outside of.
Joker's Wild. Joker's Wild.
Oh,
Love
the
Joker's
slot
Wild.
machine.
yes.
Jack
Love
Barry.
Joker's Wild.
Jack Barry.
And I think that for like a really brief time it was on TBS, and Snoop Dogg was the host of that one. So I, but I remember them being mostly daytime, and that was like must see TV when you were homesick. Is you got to watch The Price is Right and
hang out with Bob Barker for the afternoon, guys.
Exactly. and then the very first iteration of a show that I've actually been trying desperately to get on is Press Your Luck.
Oh yeah,
Big bucks, no whammies.
Big bucks, no whammies.
Yep.
I auditioned for that show.
I put in an application. Now I got to throw this out to Craig real quick. Is Craig? I tried to get him, and I don't know if he's finished it. Did you submit your application for season 4 of The Floor?
The video's taken. I haven't put it on the thing yet. I was going to do it tonight after the show.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it tonight.
He said that last episode.
I actually recorded the video finally, though. My weekend got away from me. So and now here's an interesting story about this, and we're gonna, again, this is how our show goes. It goes in 5 different directions. We never set anything, but here's a tasty tidbit of information that I found out from Tim. Was it this morning? Or was it yesterday? It was probably this morning.
Probably, yeah. We're
hot off the presses.
But basically, Tim was a finalist for my season of The Floor.
Yes,
and he didn't get it, but you ended up on We Are Family.
Funny how things like that work. Yeah, it's well,
crisscross.
Casting people for The Floor cast We Are Family, and I applied for We Are Family at the last minute. They were like in the final stages of casting, and it was a real quick process, and it helped that there was some familiarity with the casting folks who are all awesome at the Casting Collective. That's the name of the company that casts those shows. And so, it went rather quickly. I will tell you real quick, for We Are Family, I still ended up being, I didn't know this until I got to Atlanta, but I was an alternate for the show. They're like, surprise. So I got on show 4 through 10. So every time, this is something here's a little background information on this show for We Are Family. Every time a star player played, which was the person at the end of the show who got the most right and got to play the final game, once they were done, they went home and they were replaced with one of us. And so you didn't see this on the show because they didn't show it, but they didn't even, like, on The Floor, you cannot not air the shows in order. On We Are Family, the shows were absolutely aired out of order. So it was strange anyway. So, but yeah, I was a finalist on The Floor. I would have loved to get on The Floor and to shoot my shot with that's so much more my speed, the trivia, and what you guys did. And unfortunately, the way it's set up is, I can't apply for The Floor. So, Craig, you got to do it. Do it for us.
So
Well, I'm on it. Trust me. I'm while you guys are doing this, while I'm apparently lagging out on my computer end here, I was actually clicking the file
I
over.
love it.
That's probably why I lagged out.
Peer pressure.
So Craig, one thing,
This whole like
Tim,
multitasking thing, my computer can't handle apparently all of a sudden when it's recording, too much. So, but anyways, the peer pressure's been there. It's not that I wasn't doing it. Honestly, it was just one of those things that I'm running around like a crazy person.
Sure.
I have 2 podcasts, a full-time job. I can't believe
You're not
I haven't
doing
gotten
enough,
to doing
man.
it yet.
You're not doing
I'm trying to
enough.
get a part-time job too.
So one thing that Tim was talking about is like he's like, Tim cannot go on to the next season of The Floor unless there is some sort of like in writing from Fox. Fox is very, very particular about that. So so like
Makes
once
sense
you
to the point. They don't want to have the same people all the time, for
Right.
many reasons,
But
I'm sure.
But they have the same
the-
celebrities. That's all I'll say.
But the
But they
one thing
have
about that is that you end up being in a database too now. So if they ever like needed somebody to fill a spot that they can't fill, they can pick one of us at some
You
point.
remember him?
There you
So-
go.
So Tim, what was the very first game
There it is.
show you got to go on?
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Who
So the
Wants to
story
Be a
behind
Millionaire?
that, it was 2001. It was kind of later in the early run of the show. It was still the early run, but it was later in the early run. And they started in May of 2001 having in-person auditions. And so I was having a very hard time with the phone game. It was very hard to get through on that phone game. So I figured, let me just go to an in-person audition. So there's a twofold story. I went to Miami, which is, I'm in South Florida, so it's local to me. And I bombed the audition. It was my very first game show audition. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have an understanding of it. I passed the quiz, no problem. The trivia quiz, they give you a trivia quiz, a very hard multiple choice, like 25 question trivia quiz. Passed that, no problem. But the in-person part, I just didn't have, I just wasn't me. I was trying to be something else. And so I didn't pass that. So I turned to my wife, Erica, and I'm like, you know what? They're having an audition in Savannah. Let me sign up for that. And I did. And we flew up to Savannah, Georgia, and I tried my luck again and nailed it. About a week later, I knew I nailed it. When you nail an audition, by the way, if you're trying out for a game show, you know it. It's just like a job interview. You know when you nail that interview. So I knew I nailed it. So about a week later, I got a postcard in the mail saying I'm in the pool of contestants. And about a month and a half later, I found out I won a trip to Planet of the Apes premiere, the 2001 movie with Mark Wahlberg. So I was already going to New York. The premiere was at a theater in New York. And I get a call like the next day from Millionaire saying, hey, we want you on the show. And of course, it was the day after the premiere. So I was already going to be in New York. So the arrangement was pretty quick. I flew up, went to the premiere, saw Regis Philbin there. It became a whole discussion on the show, which was pretty funny. And I won the first fastest finger question. And it was about TV neighbors. TV is a strong, if I was to go on the floor, TV would definitely be a topic that I would be very strong in. And I got on the show, and the rest was history, so to speak, with the great great Regis Philbin.
I want to mention one thing for the younglings that happen to be listening to this show. A postcard is something that you used to put in the mail with a stamp on it that you would send with some words on it. Just saying.
Normally
I'm the weird one that's always like the Gen X whisperer in all the conversations that I end up being in, because being the age I am, I'm in the middle.
Normally I'm the one that says, for those who don't know.
I am old.
Put my Tommy hat on there for a second.
I mean, we are talking about a game show that aired in 2001.
Yes.
So what was it like being in the room with Regis and everything going on with that show? Because watching that show, it was always, there was a reason they called it the hot seat. So was your ass on fire while you were and you're just
my ass was completely on fire. Meeting Regis was awesome. He came out before the taping, introduced himself. I was in awe because I was a huge fan. Everybody knew. It was like the Friends of the time, right? But when you're in that hot seat, the music they play, you heard. So it was a boom, 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 and that's all I would hear. And so it definitely added negatively to the experience.
So the room was just as intimidating as the random question, obviously, that they throw at you, and as you work your way toward the million. So
Yes,
that's that.
exactly.
I was, Tommy's told me about this. It's nice to hear it from another person, just because there is that, you got to put your game face on. You can't just show up and hope for the best. It's that you got to really get the mental space in. Go ahead. You'll get something to say.
Yeah, you really have to zone in. You have to zone in when almost like you're in a tunnel and nothing else exists is the best way I
Mhm.
can describe it. So like on the floor, you're just staring at that monitor, right? That you're looking at off stage, trying to get it's a Millionaire. I'm just staring at that monitor in front of me, and it doesn't make great TV, by the way. I found out from watching it back. But that's what you have to do. You have to do, and yeah, definitely a zone.
And the one thing that they do want from you, especially when it comes to, your personality, they want you to be grandiose. They want you to be out there, because that makes good television is people who are jumping up and down and screaming, and and if you ever see any of Tim's little clips, you'll see that Tim is a very energetic
Very
person.
animated. Very animated.
Very
And it's
animated.
natural.
How
It's not
can you
even a
not be?
thing. You see me on this
when
podcast
they
right
call
now.
you down on the Price is Right, you gotta
You
I don't hold
got to
back.
turn into a Muppet.
inflatable two people in 5 seconds. Yeah, exactly.
I don't hold back with that shit at all.
No, why would you? You're getting
No.
a chance to do that so many people don't get to do. Have fun with it. Goof off.
I'm on a freaking
So
game show. Like, how awesome, right?
So
Of
on that,
course.
I just have to mention here, because apparently I'm being called out in the comments, that apparently everybody's not as old as I predetermined with the postcard
Mary.
comment. Just bringing that one full circle. Wanted to make sure I mentioned it. Mary, thank you very much for being a fan of the show. Once again, keeping me in check.
I love that, Mary.
Oh
So-
God. So now that we got our first game show in and everything, and is this where the bug starts getting you into itches, like, ooh, I want to do this again? Is that
It
when it happens,
does.
or?
I mean, it does. I was on such a high from being on. I won $16,000 in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I was on such a high from just being on that show. It did, and I'll mention this. I mean, it aired on September 9th, 2001. So it taped in July 2001. So a lot happened in the world right after the show aired,
Mhm.
understandably. So I didn't really pursue anything for like the next 5 years. I was trying out for Wheel of Fortune every year. They would have a Wheelmobile event, and I would put my name in, but it was very hard to kind of get chosen. So, I just continued doing that. Wheel of Fortune was probably at the top of my list. And so, and fast forward to like September or October of 2005, they were coming to Fort Lauderdale to tape shows. So I was like, oh, let me try it again. I went to a Wheelmobile event at a local CarMax. They pulled my postcard, very animated on stage, got called back to an in-person in-city audition, a final audition, where they spun a fake wheel and you had to call letters and be animated and do all that stuff. And then they told me, guess what, Tim, we like you, but good news, bad news, we want you to be an alternate for the Fort Lauderdale shows. But in Wheelland, what that means is if once you're an alternate, they guarantee you that you will be on the show. It's just I ended up having to fly out to Los Angeles. So I spent a bunch of shows in Fort Lauderdale just as an alternate, hanging out with the contestants, Fun in the Sun week. And then about 2 months later, I got called to LA, to Culver City, where right next to where they tape Jeopardy. And I taped the show. And yeah, that was beyond a dream come true too. Growing up, like we talked about Saturday during the day, watching Wheel of Fortune and Pat and Vanna and the whole deal. And Vanna came in right away at the beginning of the day and said hi. She was in her regular clothes, no makeup, and it was just a
So
surreal
did she give you the
experience.
frisbee toss thing? Like right when she said
No.
hi, I'm Vanna, and points to herself
Hi.
instead.
No. But yeah,
So
Wheel of
here's-
Fortune was number 2.
So now, okay, so I have to ask before, did you win anything on Wheel of Fortune?
Comparable, I'm going to sound like a little baby sore loser right now because I won $2,250, which there are people that say, well, $2,000 is a lot of money, but when you look at what people win on Wheel of Fortune, it was disappointing.
It's on the smaller side.
Yeah, I had the mystery wedge. I don't know if you guys know, when you watch the show, there, the mystery wedge. I had the $10,000. Immediately got to lose a turn after. So there was a series of bad luck. There was a player on my show, Linda, who was just incredible. And yeah, I got to solve one puzzle about food, of course, turkey dinner with all the fixings, and yeah, at least I got to solve a puzzle. I mean, yeah.
I'm sure we could probably find this on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's always something on YouTube.
It's out there.
So I got to pull a Gen X for the viewers and the listeners at home. So back in the day on Wheel of Fortune, in the 80s,
Wayne's World.
we actually, they made you spend your money each round. So you would be this floating head, and you'd be like, oh, I would take the porcelain dog for 12,000, and then I'll put the rest on a gift certificate.
Now, luckily for me, I was on a little later than that, but yes.
Yep. So were you so you said you were there, you were on it in 2005, is that right?
2006, May
2006.
2006, yeah.
Now, was this when they started to introduce the $1 million wedge, or was that later on?
Later on, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of the newer stuff was later. Yeah, the $1 million wedge didn't. I remember actually when they introduced that, I was like, why couldn't they introduce that during my show? But yeah, not that I would have won it because I didn't make it to the bonus round anyway. But yeah, no, that was later on.
There you go.
So we got there. So I have like a real quick story about Wheel of Fortune. When I was in Ireland, getting ready to film, or when we just got there, I had gotten a contact by Wheel of Fortune to be on. I was like, I can't. I'm actually going to be on a game show. So I think I kind of lost my chances. Now I'm still in the database for them, but yeah, I was like, I'm filming a game show.
I don't think you lost. My advice to you would be to contact them. I don't think you lost your chance. I would totally, because they're always looking for contestants. It's not a bad thing, and you were honest with them.
Yeah.
So we could talk behind the scenes, but yeah.
Definitely. Oh yeah, well, definitely. So now we've come to, so we got $60,000 from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Regis
16.
Golden.
I wish it was 16.
16. Oh, 16. 16.
I wish it was
16. And now we've been on Wheel of Fortune when we won 2,000 and the home game.
Yeah.
For those who don't know,
I didn't get the home game.
Back in the day, that was part of the parting gifts, was a home version of the game show you were on.
And rice-a-roni.
The San Francisco treat.
That's correct.
I was just gonna say. Cal guy.
I think Tim and I are closer in age than I think. So
Yes, I'm 53. I'm 53. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then
I
you're
got you
older
beat,
than
I
me.
think. Yes.
By that much.
All
right. So let's go a little bit further.
That'll be nice
now. What game show are we going to next? What is number 3?
So we're only fast forwarding a couple of months because NBC started filming this game show with Bob Saget. For those of you, I will do a Gen X thing. For those of you who might not know who Bob Saget is, he was Mr. Tana on Full House.
And if you're on the younger side, you know him as a dirty stand-up comedian.
That's correct.
He was very blue. He was a very blue guy.
Oh,
he was so funny.
So if you're looking for the best dirty Bob Saget thing ever, as far as a joke, make sure you look up Bob Saget, the Aristocrats joke. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah.
I can't play it on this show.
No. Not going to say it.
No.
So, yeah.
Anyway, go for it.
This was the original 100 show. It was called 1 versus 100. It was basically 100 contestants.
I remember that show.
Yeah. And one person was playing against us. I was in the mob. I was number 52 or something like that. I didn't last long in the show because once you answered the question wrong, you were out. The lights went dark, and I won exactly 0. I flew to LA, paid myself.
That was an
and-
interesting show for the
Yeah.
time, because correct me if I'm wrong, there was an internet component to that game too, because they actually used to play a version of that
Later
on
on.
Xbox Live every Friday night, and I used to make sure that we get a bunch of people together after we were drinking in the bar on a Friday night and play the game.
Yeah, later on,
They used to
when
hand us
they
some
did a
prizes.
syndicated version, they did. I think Carrie Ann and someone who I forget who hosted it after Bob, but yeah, there was an Xbox Live version of the show that you could actually
It was
win.
a fun time. It's a good game.
Yeah, yeah. So I won nothing, but it was fun, and I have one little tiny. I don't even have the tape anymore of the show. That's why I'm very proponent of. If you want me to record your show, I'll do it. I was on the cast of We Are Family real quick. I was the one who recorded all the episodes for everybody. I did the same for Trivial Pursuit, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, I'm a big archivist, as you can tell from all this crap. Yeah, I'm big on saving stuff. And so yeah, I have a picture. I have some memories, but that was all I got from One versus 100. And then that was it for 17 years.
Just
Took a
like
17-year hiatus.
I'm verifying something because my memory is really bad. So, so I'm checking something because I want to say that I had the opportunity. My wife and I had the opportunity to see Bob Saget live at Comedy at the Carlson. Obviously, I believe it was like at least a year before he passed. So,
Oh wow!
I almost went to that same show.
And so we had, before we go any further, so you've had an interaction with Regis Philbin, and he was a good guy. Yes, he was
awesome,
nice,
awesome. Yeah.
And then Pat Sajak and Vanna, nice people.
Beautiful people, amazing people. Even when I solved the puzzle for Wheel of Fortune, Pat turned to me and goes, "I'm so glad you said fixings because it could have been fixins." And so yeah, he's always rooting for the contestants. So absolutely great experience there. And Bob Saget, I didn't have a lot of interaction with him because I was part of a mob basically, but he was so cool to the audience, to the contestants, and yeah, again, no complaints. I have no complaints about any host I've ever been worked with on a show. So
we'll talk about Rob Lowe in a little bit.
I'm interested in that.
Yeah, there you go.
So
literally.
Now we're up to number 4. And number 4, I believe, is We Are Family, right?
Yeah, fast forward 17 years to 2004 last year, 2024 last year. I had finally, I'm an education advocate. I advocate for kids with special needs, and I sometimes have some time on my hands. And I'm very reminiscent about what I've done in the past, and I started to really feel like I could do it again, give it another run to try to get on another show. And so I started a series, and I told this to Tommy off camera too. For every 10 shows, for every one show I get on, there are 10 that I don't get on, right? So I just started applying for shows. So I ended up being a finalist for The Floor. I was a finalist for The Mole Season 2 reality show. I was a semifinalist for Big Brother Season 25. I just started like going through the process of applying for shows. And We Are Family was towards the end of that run. I was starting to get a little frustrated with, not getting on a show. And so when We Are Family called me and said, "Hey," well, I'll rewind it a little bit. I texted the casting folks and I said, "Have you guys decided on who you want yet?" And they go, "Yeah, sadly, the network has already decided on who they want." So I was like, "Okay, We Are Family is done." About 2 weeks later, I get a text, "Hey, you still interested?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" And so it's literally 3 days before I'm flying out to We Are Family taped in Atlanta, not Dublin. But it taped in Atlanta and but there's anyway. Yeah. You're going to Atlanta. Okay.
That's what.
So they literally like 3 days later, I fly. We were there for 2.5 weeks filming the show. For those, if you haven't watched it last year, a lot of people, it's basically we filmed 10 episodes in 2.5 weeks. It was a celebrity and their relative. The relative was out there singing a song, and we, the contestants, the 100 that were there, had to guess who the celebrity was based on clues that came on the screen. And so I the first 4 episodes I was not in yet. As I said, I was an alternate. But they did call me in for episode 5. That was my first episode. Of course, the first episode I did not see Anthony Anderson. We found out that he had COVID, and so they had an emergency guest co-host, which was Joel McHale. So Joel McHale came in, hosted the first 2 episodes that I was part of, and Anthony came back, and it was a great experience. Met my buddy Charlie, a bunch of people, amazing. Similar to what you guys went through with the floor, really bonded the 100 of us together. And I think more so because maybe we weren't really in competition with each other. We weren't trying to eliminate each other. It was a little different experience, but still the same type of experience where we really kind of, I'm still talking to a bunch of people from We Are Family. And, you know, I will say this, Fox treated us wonderfully. It was a great experience. I have no complaints whatsoever. As a matter of fact, you know, we just felt like it was summer camp. I've heard similar things from the floor people. It wasn't in Ireland, but that's okay. But we had the best time. And yeah, it's funny too. I got to see myself in episodes that I wasn't even in, if that makes sense. They ended up splicing. So, you know, that Jubilant Tim, I'm watching an episode that, hey, I know I'm not in, but let me watch it because I hadn't seen it yet. Right, exactly, Craig. All of a sudden, all I see is, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, where? I didn't get extra money for this. What is going on? Oh my goodness gracious. So yeah,
it's like how Tommy was in every ad campaign going, "Come on, bring it."
I'll tell you what. And so we Are Family and the Floor, brand new game shows to the United States. And so when those first promos came out, and I got to see myself on national television, I was like, oh, and my family's like watching, and they're like, there he is, there. Every time there's like a little tidbit, there he is. You know, so
we're doing the same thing, Anna and I, every time we did. It's like, there's Tommy.
Tommy, I know that guy. Well, did you had contact with the Fox PR people too? They were very with us. They were like sending us files and saying, here, go promote this. And I'm sure they were doing that with you guys too.
Same thing with us. And just like you said, we became kind of like a community. So we actually have a group chat that we started when we were there. We just kept it going, and we're still to this day. And you know,
you're enlisting new people probably at this point.
well, and that's the thing though, is I started following people from season 2, you know, because and really great people, and they have their own community of folks, and same thing with Tim. So I started following a lot of people that Tim followed, because I feel like I'm now part of this game show contestant community now, especially when it comes to a Fox show, because that's what we were on, you know.
Yeah.
So did you
it's
get
funny
a
you mentioned that.
decoder ring or a secret handshake? No, you just got your.
I got COVID from Rob Lowe, so we call it Lovid. So.
Oh my God! Really? Is that true?
From some of the stories I've heard in the 80s, you probably made out all right.
A good portion of us, when we left the show, and we ended up, a lot of us ended up with COVID, and so we started blaming Rob Lowe for giving us COVID. So we called it Lovid.
We did. We have family. We had a couple of contestants come home with COVID, but I was lucky not to be one of those. I've had it twice already. That's enough. But I will say this, you know, with I became a fanboy. I got to know Tommy because I became a fanboy of The Floor. I started watching the show, and actually in our group chat, I was saying, "We Are Family, our group." I'm like, we should have a trivia competition against The Floor. Season 1, there should be The Floor versus We Are Family, and you know. That got me started to talk to you and Stephanie and a bunch of you guys from your season, and before we know it, we were like connected. So it was great. It was a great experience.
So you've heard that, everybody, live on the TNC Random Fandom podcast. There is going to be a family versus The Floor.
Hey, I'm for it. Let's do it.
Make it happen.
So I gotta say, before we go on to the next one, because this was one that I actually applied for too, but now, like I said, I started following a few of the other contestants that were on We Are Family, And there was one girl, I can't remember her name, and I'm just going to paraphrase that. She kind of like lambasted it, but she was like showing pictures of like everybody that was on the show with her and stuff like that. And she was, she's just like this, I was on this shitty game show and stuff like that. And
I'm familiar.
And that, and I got to say, because, obviously I lucked out. I got to be on the ground floor of a show that is getting multiple seasons, and they're casting season 4. And then after the Super Bowl, season 3 of the floor is going to hit, so the funny thing is that obviously We Are Family was not much of a commercial hit, but you still got that community of people that they can say, you know what, I was on this show. You may not remember it, but you can look it up on YouTube. And
I am not. Listen, I as you see my resume, I've already talked about. I am not embarrassed at all. I'm very proud of being on that show. I'm happy. I would never ever label anything that I am part of as being shitty or something like that. I thought the Fox people were wonderful. I am very proud. Listen, I went in and I was disappointed to begin with. I only got on I was on 6 episodes, and it was what it was, and I could have definitely labeled it whatever, but honestly, at the end of the day, it was a great experience. I have great friends out of it, and I am proud to have been on that show. I think
maybe
one
that's
of the
just
reasons why
me. I mean, kind of 2 seconds. I'm the outside looking in person right now, right?
No.
You two have been on the game shows and everything, and I'm just sitting here going, I don't know if I just don't know where I would get off on that fact of lambasting something that I was literally invited to, and I had a chance to, go home with money. And I didn't have to do like what I do at my job, where I just, toil away and hope somebody throws me a bone.
I have to agree with Tim, though, is I even if the floor was a commercial flop, even if it was, I wouldn't be upset. I got to go to Dublin for free. I got to meet 80 freaking people that I can call friend, and I think Tim feels the same way. Is that he may not have gotten
You got to get
Dublin,
COVID from Rob Lowe.
but at the same time, you got to meet 99 people potentially, and 115 because of the alternates, right? But these are people that you have. We used on the floor, we called it shared trauma.
Oh, we call that too. We call the same exact term. That's funny. We call it shared trauma too.
But that's the thing, though. It brought a lot of people together, and we're talking people from all walks of life, from all just great people all around. And you go into these things, you have to go into these things, especially this situation. And I'm telling you, Craig, you come out of it a better person, in my opinion.
You do.
Because you meet so many people. It's a fantastic experience.
To that point, Tommy, I so hate talking for a living, so there's going to be such a problem. You all, there's a reason at work that I get stuck doing all the tours for the controls engineering department, because they just know, oh, Craig will talk their ear off. Just let him go over there and have fun.
That's funny.
And then I have my kooky laugh, and everybody has a good time. It's just how it is. But that's all I want to do. And, something like this is, to me, an opportunity. It's fun. It's silly. I have you. I have Gene that's told me I need to hurry up. Now I have Tim yelling at me. So it's going to be done tonight.
Yep.
All right? So get off my back.
Just so you know, with We Are Family, I don't think, and I'm going to defend the show too. I don't think it was a flop necessarily, because the ratings were kind of on par with the floor a bit. I think it's more expensive to produce because of the artists and the music and all that stuff that was involved.
Yeah.
And they did give us, every contestant that went on stage got a minimum of $2,000. So we didn't get a trip to Dublin, but we got cash. So
that's a good point.
Either way, then Tommy's like, what?
You know what? This is going to be the first time on this show's history, but I'm flipping you off.
But you got to go to Dublin.
Sure. And there's the bird.
He did the bird earlier.
Oh God! So that finger came on down.
No, that's awesome. And like I said, it's an experience, and
Yeah.
And as we go into a little bit more into this episode, because I'm glad Tim is on here. So before we go any further, Tim, or we keep going
I
into
get the
that
fifth
one
one.
direction, what's the next and the last game show you are on now, or you were on?
So I
Too
just
current, right?
yeah, too current, very current. A couple of months ago, it aired. So real
Nice.
quick, I was applying. I started applying for shows. I had to get permission from Fox because there's a thing when you sign a contract for game show. Typically, there's a 1 year waiting period between shows.
Mhm.
So I got permission from Fox to apply for Trivial Pursuit, which is show number 5. They gave me permission. They were really cool about it, and I applied for it. Went through, and that's the thing too. I became very friendly with casting people. You treat them nice, be respectful, and it's amazing how well that helps you. So I had already a rapport with the casting folks of the Trivial Pursuit, and so I did a quick Zoom. It was a real compared to all the other game shows, very quick process. I got about a week before I was to fly out to London to show taped in London. They
Wow.
called me, said, "You want to go on the show?" So I went to the BBC studios in London, flew out there, and taped an episode. It was so basically Trivial Pursuit, the game that you all know. 3 contestants. Each round, one gets eliminated based on the lowest score. So first round, someone gets eliminated. Second round, I made it to the final round where it's multiple choice questions, and whoever wins. It was a very tight race between me and Richard. I love Richard. I ended up going to the final round, where in the final round, you have to compete against the clock, 60 seconds. For every question of the Trivial Pursuit categories you get right, you get $1,000. And if you get all 6 right, you get $20,000. I got 3 right, so I ended up with $3,000, which I was very happy with for the free trip to London. And that aired in November on the CW. So another bonus is there's only a 5-month, 6-month hold on that show. So I can start applying for shows that are going to air in the summer now. So that's what I'm starting to
There
do.
you go.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm technically still on a hold for We Are Family, which is crazy because the last episode aired in February of last year. So we're creeping up on that 1 year mark.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Craig,
Okay.
one thing that Tim and I were talking about, and again, I was Instagram stalking him because obviously, that's what you do when you try to
Doing
get
your
people on the show.
You're saying it wrong. You're a
Research.
podcast host now. You were doing your
Oh,
research.
Research.
Your homework for the
Not
show.
stalking.
So outside of game shows, now Tim has actually done other kind of contests, and you won quite a few contests. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you've won quite a few. Can you give
Yes.
us some insight on those?
Sure. My wife and I like to enter contests and sweepstakes as a hobby. I've been doing that since before I got married in 1992. We've been to the Pro Bowl, the Super Bowl, the Oscars. We've been to Taiwan. We've been to Amsterdam. We have been to Easter Island. I've won 4 vehicles that I don't own any of anymore. I've won TVs. I've won money, cash. You name it, I've won it. That's usually one of the 5 interesting things I put on a game show application because it's funny. I got to have lunch with Paula Abdul in South Beach. I played one-on-one basketball with Alonzo Mourning, Miami Heat veteran. I've done a lot of very interesting things.
So what
free.
so what Tim is saying is when there's a sweepstakes, just
I'm
do it.
entering
Just do
it.
it because you never know. You never know when you're gonna win.
We just
100%.
we just
Wow.
won a trip to New Jersey to see the Jets and the Dolphins play. So yeah, we were just in
Oh,
New
wow.
Jersey a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Nice. So Tim, I think I have to tell you the story of the one thing I've ever won in my life
Ooh,
because
I love
this
it.
is hilarious, and I think you're gonna get a kick out of this because it's got a good story with my dad too. So I decided to kidnap my father February a bunch of years ago when we went down to
Kidnapping,
baseball spring training.
stalking. Okay.
Same thing. You don't worry about it. No big deal.
That's what
Move
we
on.
do on this show.
So I took him down to spring training to go see a bunch of Blue Jays games. He's a Blue Jay fan like I am. I turned in a bunch of traveling all over the world with Tommy here for our day job back when. And I was like, you know what? Fine, let's just do it. So when we were walking into the ballpark, they had all these tables to sign up for things. And I'm like, you know what? Herbie Hancock all over it, right? Yeah, Tommy
Love
Boy
it.
quote. Got my so we're sitting there drinking beer, hanging out, goofing around, and my name came over the announcers, stuff. And my dad's like, I think you just won something. I'm like, I think I just won something. So I bolt, go get the thing. And it was an autographed baseball from a ball player that I actually truly
That's
enjoyed. And when I had
amazing.
met at that time, and I had met him, and it was a ballpark thing that I'm kind of like, maybe it's because I was quasi a baseball writer and all these things. I just hate asking people for the autograph. I love the experience of being able to chit chat and talk with them. I don't want to bog that up with waiting for the autograph. If I'm, 12-year-old Craig, there's a whole different conversation going on there. I want the autograph. But so I come back to the seat and I'm sitting there with my dad and he goes, "What did you win?" And then he goes, "That's a baseball. You really should give this to this kid behind you." And I'm like, "This is the first thing I've ever won in my life. I'm keeping it. If I get a foul ball, I'll give it to the kid." So
Screw that.
the funny thing is, karma came right back at me, and I had to stop a ball from almost hitting me in the head. And then I gave the ball to the kid
It's like
after
a
I got the
cartoon.
belt in my hand.
That's like a cartoon. What is
So the
that?
kid got a ball. I got my Danny Jansen, closer of the
Oh,
Blue
I
Jays
love
at the
Danny
time.
Jansen. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Casey Jansen. Sorry, Ron Jansen.
Oh,
Casey
I thought you were
Jansen, Blue
catcher.
Jay from way many years ago.
Gotcha.
Danny Jansen is the only guy that's ever. So here's your trivia note: Danny
Former
Jansen is
catcher.
the only Major League Baseball player that has ever played for two teams in the same game.
That's correct.
I've heard about this.
And you want
I've
to
heard
know how
about
he
this.
did it? Would be the question.
Well, the other team is the Boston
Traded.
Red Sox, right?
It was
The other
traded.
team is
He
the
was
Boston
traded
Red Sox.
mid-game, right?
Not mid-game. It was
Weather.
rained out in the
Yeah.
fifth inning, way at the beginning of last year. And then they resumed that game after the trade deadline, and Danny Jansen had been traded to the Red Sox, but he was on the roster for the Blue Jays when that game, quote unquote, spun back up. So it's
So
just
crazy. So he was basically behind the plate for his own appearance.
for both teams in that game, technically, even though there was a month between innings.
So crazy.
Talk about a switch hitter.
Only
Yeah.
only in baseball.
Good times. So, Tommy, I didn't know if you wanted to ask any other questions, but there's 15 minutes or so left here where we have Tim. Obviously, we're going to have a to be continued like every other guest we have on this show at some point. But I do have some fun ones that I wanted to get to that I want to make sure we ask. So
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
I think we'd be silly to not take advantage of here talking just game shows in general with Tim. And first off, I'm going to ask, what's your favorite ones? Top three. Is it ones you've been on?
No, not necessarily. Actually, Press Your Luck. I'm with you on that.
Classic.
Love classic. The Price is Right, and Let's Make a Deal. Those are my three top favorite ones. There's something, not necessarily I want to go on it, but just enjoy watching. So yeah, those are definitely.
There's something infectious about watching every one of those and enjoying the what's going on in it. And I still to this day I love Drew Carey just as much as and it's not the same with Bob Barker. Obviously, that's the it's the main thing. But to that point, if I'm home and there's nothing on, it's like, okay, great. It's The Price is Right. It's there for me always. That's the big thing, right?
I actually record the show just to watch on a weekend or something because it's good to have in the store.
So here's a question for you. And what is, when it comes to the prices, well, Craig first, what are your three favorite game shows?
My three favorite game shows, though. Here's the weird thing, because I'm going to go Gene a little bit here from when we were on our Nickelodeon episode. I was diehard watching Nickelodeon's Legends of the Hidden Temple, which was a game show that was,
I remember that.
little trivia pieces to it and everything. But it was more physical challenge at the end of the day, Double Dare-ish. And that's a classic one, too. But The Price is Right. And I'm funny enough, I was going to get to this one, but you hit me for it. And it's not on TV anymore. I just think it's hilarious, and especially now when you look back at it. Win Ben Stein's Money.
Oh, I love that show. That was a great show. That was on Comedy Central. That was a great show.
The tandem of young Jimmy Kimmel. Yes, you heard it right here. Young Jimmy Kimmel with Ben Stein's. Oh, that was it was comedic gold. It was the reason that, that was one of those things when I got home, the reruns were always on. Yeah, after class and everything in college on Comedy Central, they were just running those reruns all day, like from 4 o'clock to 6 in that time frame. And it was just fun to watch. And it was great trivia. Ben Stein's hilarious. Jimmy Kimmel reading the trivia. It was good stuff. But those would be my 3.
Yeah, that was
And
way
obviously,
before
like I
the
said,
Man
the
Show.
classics are the classics.
I will throw this out because again, I mentioned 2 of them already. So I loved Joker's Wild because I thought that was just like the coolest thing. It was a slot machine. And obviously another is Press Your Luck. That's a game show I want to be on. That's the game show that I've applied for. Fingers crossed. You never know. I can be goofy and loud and crazy. But the last one is actually not even a US game show. I kind of watched this show when I was in Dublin the first time when my wife and I went there. But it was this game show where you answered questions, but those slot machine games where you put the quarter in and then it drops down and then it pushes everything forward. That
Oh, you
game
did tell me about
show,
this one.
Coin
that
pusher.
game show is, it's like I don't know if that's the name of it, but that's what the whole premise of the show is. And I'm sitting there watching this and I'm mesmerized by it, and I'm like, this is like, I can't even. But now, mind you, when you look at game shows in like the UK and Britain in general, everybody's kind of like really subdued, like, oh, you got it wrong, and they're like, oh, bugger, oh, darn it. But here, in the United States, they want you to be all over the place and grandiose, so. But I can't remember what the name of it was, but I fell in love with that game. I can't wait if maybe they'll have a US version of it, but it was just awesome. An awesome game show. But here's my question to both of you. And Tim, since you are the guest, what is your favorite Price is Right game?
Ooh, I love that question. So my favorite Price is Right game, I love card games on the Price is Right because I like to win. I have 2. I'll tell you real quick. The first one is the race game where they have to win a mouse and they have to, like, you put the mouse on the thing and you try to. I love that one. I'm not going to tell you the atypical one of Plinko. I like Plinko, but it's not my favorite.
No,
everybody likes Plinko.
And I like dice game. I like a dice game, just rolling the dice and getting a 1 or a 6 and trying to win a car. Like, I have strategies involved in that. So those are my 2 favorites. So yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna go the yodeler because that one's just funny. The one where they go, it goes off. It's just amusing. It's great. It's a good one. And the game, it's like, I was right. And then there's just the stress of him just going on and running. He falls off the edge. It's like, oh, I lost.
Yeah. It's called Cliffhanger. It's a great show.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So what do you got? What do you got up next, Craig? What do you got?
So I have one here that I just had to ask, because if we have the game show guy on tonight, I have to ask this question, and especially with all the fun that's been actually happening on some certain show, and it's their 50th anniversary this year. I'm talking Celebrity Jeopardy spoofs from Saturday Night Live. Thoughts, answers, questions. Is the penis mightier? Is it the therapist?
Lay tits now.
What it might be. I would be doing myself a disservice, because here's the other part about this conversation. Nobody has talked about Jeopardy at all, so it's even more fun to dive right into this part. Because Alex Trebek,
Turd
obviously,
Ferguson?
is Alex Trebek.
Turd Ferguson.
Turd Ferguson.
Turd Ferguson.
Oh man,
So-
it's right. Will Smith, Will Ferrell as freaking Sean Connery. I mean, come on.
But him, oh god, all of them together, I just think it was hysterical. I can't believe all of them. Norm Macdonald dressed up as Burt Reynolds. He did a solid Burt Reynolds.
I heard Burt Reynolds hated that. He hated it.
That's funny too, because Burt Reynolds, especially later in his years, God rest his soul, and all that kind of good stuff, but he got really kind of weird funny at the end there, and the movies he was in and stuff like that. It was a little,
I mean, he was in Boogie Nights.
It's not Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah,
No.
exactly.
No,
So-
definitely not.
Truth be
By the
told,
way,
Smoking
Todd-
the Bandit is one of my favorite movies because of
Mine
Jackie
too.
Gleason.
Why wouldn't it be?
Love it. Yes. But real quick, Tommy, the name of the show is Tipping Point that you were referring to, the British game show.
Yes.
I did my research. I mean,
Look at
There it is.
Just go on YouTube. You could probably find it, and it's a fan. It's I swear to God, you'll be mesmerized, and you'll be like, I can't believe I'm watching this, and you get like all excited. You're like, what's all good? Just like if you were playing
Yeah.
the game yourself, you're sitting there like, oh, the big stack's gonna go, the big stack. Oh,
That's how I felt
Love
every
that.
time in the arcade. I'm like, oh, look at that. There's like about 50 of them, like right off the edge almost. And you go put that one quarter in and you think you got in the right place, and it just sits there and goes, ha ha ha, ha, sorry, you get nothing.
It's kind of how I felt on
I
Wheel
want
of
to know how
Fortune.
many tokens those stole in my freaking arcades over the years, especially Tommy, I don't know if you've ever been to this, but I'm going to give a shameless self-promoting bit here for some of my family friends that run the Charcoal Corral in Perry, New York, which is a drive-in. So it's one of the few in the area.
not the
that
Golden
arcade.
Corral.
Yeah, not the Golden Corral. But that is
I know
one of those
that
few
one.
things. I probably, like I said, they've been family friends for, since the time I've been of this earth. So I don't want to know how many coins have been in those machines, but they still have that tipping point kind of game there to this day. And I'm sure my daughter has now spent plenty of coins.
I'm telling you right now, both of you and our listeners and the people that are watching, Google Tipping Point, the game, the game show. You'll sit
gonna
there
do
and
it.
you'll just be like zoned out. You'll be like, oh my God. And you're sitting there like, oh, they're gonna get it. They're gonna get it. Oh.
Well, eventually, I'm sure it'll be a Fox show or some show network soon. It'll come
I
out.
I wouldn't, with all of these great game shows being put on in prime time, it used to be like every once in a blue moon you'd get one game show, but now it's like sometimes it's kind of gone to must-see TV now because
Yeah.
people get invested, especially when you have a game show like The Floor and We Are Family that are episodic, that you start wanting to see these characters because they all are characters, and we may be contestants, but we end up kind of being a cast, so we even call ourselves cast.
It's a reality
And
game show. Yeah.
yeah, 100. Well,
Exactly.
and game shows are considered reality TV, so
As they should be.
and so Tim, this is a question because we are getting close to the time, and we always go over. You know that you listen to the show, so
It's all good.
what if for people like Craig who's still sitting on his application and
That's
everything,
right there,
but
man.
if people are listening and they're finally gotten to that point where I really want to do it, I really want to fill out what advice would you give people who are sitting there going, I really want to do this? What advice would you do as far as like what to write in these applications? Because for the most part, even all the applications are pretty standard. They ask the same questions.
Mhm.
So what would you
surprised how long it was.
suggest?
Yeah, they are long. I would suggest being as thorough as you can in the answers. Give them as much information about yourself as possible. Try to spell out why you're going to shine on TV, but don't say why you're going to shine on TV, but spell it out through your answers. Let your responses speak for you. Make sure you don't just give them yes or no answers, that you're really saying, because if they see a yes or a no answer, all they're going to say is, oh, they're going to get on the show and just say blah, 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 and not actually have a personality or, be conversational. And that brings me to make sure you give them quality pictures of yourself, current pictures of yourself. And most importantly, whether or not it says must include a video, include a video. Absolutely 100% do a video. And it doesn't have to be a fancy Hollywood production. Remember, they're sitting there on literally, it's a database, a casting database, and they're literally sitting there and going application. They don't have time for that. Make it, hey, I'm Tim, I want to be on the floor. And just make it as personable, follow their directions, but make it as personable as you can without being like over the top ridiculous. Just be you. They can smell fake a mile away. Don't be fake, just be yourself.
Yep.
Let the video shine, and that's only the first step, as Tommy can attest to. There's going to be if they like you, if they like the application, you're going to get a phone call, that phone call starts the audition. They're actually auditioning you when you pick up that phone. And if they like you or not, that decides whether or not they're going to set you up with a Zoom audition. So be yourself, be excited when you pick up the phone. Not like, hey, how's it going? But just be yourself. And once you get that Zoom audition, they give you directions of lighting, etc. Follow everything. Be cooperative. Be appreciative. Be respectful. Understand, and this is the most important part. I want to relay: the casting people do not make the decision of who is going on the show. That is made by the network and by production. Be nice to them. It's not their fault. Listen, all you can ask is that they present you to the network. What they're going to do in that Zoom interview is basically record you answering questions. Usually you have to restate the question. Do everything they're telling you to do, and they're recording it, and they're going to present it. If you don't get on the show, don't blame them. It's not their fault. They did everything they're supposed to do. And look, like I said earlier, for every 10 shows I apply for, maybe I get on one. It's a process. You just have to be in it to win it, but also understand that you're not going to get on.
And to your point that you mentioned earlier, just because the casting person had you pegged for X show doesn't mean they're not going to, we failed here, and then turn around and search you in the other spot. So as you had mentioned that you were living proof of. So be nice. Yep. And not to mention, everybody should do that anyway. We wouldn't have half the problems we have right now.
Thank you. I don't want to get political.
Oh, sorry. Did I say it out loud?
Thank you.
I was watching Gabriel Iglesias, funny enough, right before. That's why that Funko Pop got there. And that's all he says every time. I'm here not to be political. I'm here not to goof around with anybody's stupid things that they have going on or this good thing or whatever. I'm here to have fun. Period.
Just be a nice person.
So Craig, you got anything else? Got anything else for Mr. Tim?
No, I do not. But I want to make sure that we do the thing that we do for every visit on any of my podcasts, including this one. Tim, shameless self-promoting bit. This is your time to tell all of our fan base what the hell you're up to and where they can find you.
So I host a weekly podcast with my buddy Charlie from We Are Family called Around the Bases, Pop Culture and Sports Podcast. You can find us at Around the Bases on Instagram, mainly YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We talk everything pop culture, sports. Baseball is a big topic of ours. We talk a lot of reality TV. We're talking currently about like Traders and all the different shows that are on right now. So we do that every week, and I host trivia on TikTok at Trivia Chats. You can follow me on TikTok. I do live trivia. Haven't done it in a while, but I'm going to be starting to do that again. And you can find me on Trivia Chat basically on all social media. And that's my big thing is trivia. Thank you.
Nice.
Awesome.
Cool.
Hey, no.
And to that point, I had to make sure that the baseball podcast was actually following you, because on baseball, we got most of our followers on whatever the heck that Twitter thing's called this week with Elon.
I want to see Tim. I want to see you on Craig's on Jaybird Watching podcast. I want to.
100%. Baseball. I love.
We'll figure that out.
Definitely.
You won't have too much fun with my other two goofballs that are on my show with me, between Liz and Jason. So, and I'll tell you off air here how I met Liz, because I think you'll get a kick out of it. So,
that's a great story.
Sorry, Tommy, didn't mean to cut you out. Hit the wrong button.
Jerk.
He's just getting ready for the new podcast right now.
So, there's too many buttons.
Did I just get canceled?
Yeah, don't worry about it. You said something horrible.
It's a new podcast with Craig and Tim.
Yeah, there you go. And to that point, we would have obviously having no issues of you ever being on this show again. So, Tommy, I'm good if you are good, and Tim's already gotten a shameless self-promoting bit. So,
I'm good. Right. I'm good. I just to throw out there, because again, it's something else that I do is I do the 19th century dance troupe, the Flint Hill Dance Troupe. And we are going to be resuming our practices on the first and third Tuesday of every month. We will be starting on March the 4th. So if you are in the Rochester area or the surrounding area and you wish to be a part of it, you can hit me up at my socials, which is at TJMock75, or you can hit up the Flint Hill Dance Troupe itself at the Flint Hill Dance Troupe on Instagram, and just leave us your email address, and then we will go from there.
And if you want to be a lovely guest like Tim here on the show, you can direct message us on any social media platform at TC Random Fandom. We are more than happy to have more people here. That is the point. We want to make the fun place for everybody to come talk about what they're a fan of. Hence the reason Tim's here talking about his love for all things game shows and why we're here. So, Tim, thank you very much for joining us
you,
this evening.
fellas.
It was very fun.
Thank you,
Feel
Tim.
free to hang out for a
Had a
minute
good
after the
time.
show. So anyway, everybody, thank you very much for joining us on TC Random Fandom. We enjoyed it. We had a great time. Make sure you get those listens in wherever you happen to be getting your podcasting pleasures from. Make sure you give us a follow on YouTube, because that is one of the ones that we are pushing the most. We do like the fact that you get to see us a little bit. It's not just this voice behind the radio, although I've been told I could have a voice for radio. I don't know if that was an insult or pick one.
I woke up like this, so just saying.
Yeah, just saying. Always wearing a hat, even though I have the long flowing locks. So anyway, everybody take care. And if you're listening to the Toronto Blue Jays podcast that I do this week, we have an interesting friend that's coming on. That's the first Yankee fan we're ever going to have on a Blue Jays podcast.
Ew.
Because he
What?
actually runs a company called Major League Brews. I enjoy drinking when I'm watching a baseball game. So I'm going to
Who
make an
doesn't?
exception for this one Yankee fan named Anthony. So make sure you tune in
That'll be
Thursday, 6
interesting.
o'clock. Otherwise, we'll see you Sunday here back at our normal time, 7 p.m. this week. Cheers, everybody, and hope you have a great night.
Thanks,
Good night,
guys.
everybody.